Hi, this is Rick Tharp from RX Kinetics, here to give you a quick run through of some of the changes in the latest version of APK for Windows. The first thing you notice right here on the startup screen is going to ask you for a password. This is a requirement of HIPAA and high tech and all those things. So enter a password, pick one you're going to remember, click accept, and it's going to ask you to enter a hint. This is something that's going to help you remember your password in case you forget it. It cannot contain your password, but it should be something that will help you remember your password. The first thing you notice here on this screen is just the simplicity of it all. All you have is one input box and one button. A nice clean startup screen. You'll also notice that I was able to resize the screen. This is new to this version. It allows you to take advantage of your screen. If you've got old man eyes like me, you need to have it a little bigger. And as the instructions say right here, you need to search for a patient. You can either type in the patient name and press enter to view a list of matching records, or you can leave it blank and press enter to view a list of all patients. Let's do that. Leave it blank, press enter. Notice I only have 3 patients in here. You can just scroll down, press enter to retrieve that patient. Or if you know the patient's name, you can type it in, press enter, and pull that patient up from your list. Also, this button here is your most recently used, so you can go back. These are the patient records that you've recently accessed, and so you can pull it up from there in case you want to go back and look at the patient's info. What you'll notice on this screen, much simpler. There are just 5 buttons across the top here. First one is the close record button. We have the discharge button, edit button, save, and edits and cancel edits. So you'll notice there's no add button here. You can't add a new patient until you've searched for one. That's to help cut down on the number of duplicate records. Seems to be a problem. So I've searched for Frank Smith. He's not in there. I can look in my inactive view to see if he's in there. No, he's not. So let's click add. Oh, got to close that first. Then let's click the add button and let's go ahead and add Frank Smith here. Oh, it's a consult. Frank is remember the right click trick where you can enter, for example, if it's asking for weight in kilograms, you can enter weight in pounds. One thing new to this version is serum creatinine. You can now enter 2 decimal places, which is how IDMS creatinine is being reported now. And speaking of IDMS creatinine, let's look at a way that you can compensate for that. So you would click this third selection button here in the creatinine clearance box. The default, it says other, but if you click on it, it brings up the other serum creatinine or creatinine clearance methods, that you can choose. And here in the middle is where you can do some adjustments for serum creatinine per IDMS. As you know, the IDMS method is more accurate, but the results are significantly lower than our traditional serum creatinine. So you cannot directly use IDMS creatinines in our traditional creatinine clearance equations, because you're going to overestimate creatinine clearance in your PK models, and you're going to get in trouble. So when your lab switches over from traditional to IDMS, they have to do a regression analysis comparing old versus new, and you can enter that equation right here Here's your variable and your constant, the regression equation. And so you would select, yes, I want to adjust for IDMS creatinine, and enter your parameters. You can also choose to use a minimum serum creatinine, and with IDMS that's probably also a good idea. When you have that those parameters entered, click Save, and that'll save to the any file, and you'll pull it up each time you bring up the program. Another thing new here is under the other methods, when you click copy, that's going to auto select that method each time you bring up a new patient. So if lean body weight is your preferred method for when you use the Cockcroft and Gault equation for creatinine clearance, from now on that's going to be your default. BMI is displayed here now. Gives you an idea that this patient is outside normal. I think that's the highlights on the patient data tab. Again, much simpler interface up here. Much simpler way of accessing the patient. You have to do a search before you can add a new patient. Let's run through some prospective dosing on our patient here. We're going to do vancomycin. $13.34 every 23. Well, let's go with 1250 Q24. Our target's 15 to 20. There we go. That's better. Let's look at a graph. And one thing you'll notice here is some new buttons along the top and bottom, and these allow you to rescale the graph. This changes the y-axis, and here you can change the x-axis. And click the middle button to reset it back to the default. And one thing we can see from the graph is it's going to take, almost 3 days to become therapeutic. Probably ought to give him a loading dose, see what that does. Perfect. Okay, now we've got our dosing regimen. Let's save that graph, and so we can look at the consult form. I think this is new here in this line. I can't remember, but we'll go over it anyway. You can choose to print ±1 standard deviation on the serum levels, predicted serum levels. You can choose to print a barcode. What that barcode is, in this case we're going to use a medical record number, what position, top, bottom, left, right. You can also pick your canned comments, and you can also edit those canned comments. So let's say we want this to say measure I'm just going to go ahead and type the same thing because I like that. Measure trough level at steady state. When at steady state. Okay. And you notice that changes here, and that's going to be the default from now on when you select that canned comment. Let's look at it. See, measure trough level when at steady state. New to this version is this line right here, which gives you the time to 90% and time to 95% of steady state. There's our serum level graph and our barcode. Now along the top, let me pull it down a little bit. Along the top there are some buttons that these are the same. I believe they're the same they've always been. I don't know. This is a completely new version, completely new code base. So this may look different than if you're upgrading from version 3.3, then there's some massive changes here to the interface. But Here's a direct print. Here's the print setup dialog where you can, choose your printer, orientation, etc. Zoom in and out buttons, close button. But here's the important one. This is new. You can now click this button to copy the console text to your Windows clipboard. So all the text on here is now in the clipboard, and then you can then paste that into your electronic medical record using the shortcut Control V. I'm going to go ahead and see if this works. I'm going to go ahead and do that and paste it into this free text area here on the console. Cross your fingers, let's see what happens. Oh yeah. Well, didn't quite get it all, but most of the information that, of course, there's no. I can arrow down. Why don't I do this? Let me just go ahead and bring up just a notepad window, just to show you what it looks like. Okay, I'm going to do Control V, paste that console in there. There. That's all the text from the console that we printed out. Like I say, you can paste that into your medical record, your electronic medical record. Okay, we've talked about the scaling on the graph. We've talked about, I don't know if I've mentioned this, there's you can now free text the infusion time. Say for example you plan on giving this patient a whopping dose, and so you're going to infuse it over whatever that is, 4 hours. So here's our 4-hour infusions. Looks good. So that's something new to that to the Prospective tab. Okay, let's go back. Oh, I know. There's some new tools here. One is the levels scheduler. So what you would do is enter the start date and time of your dose. Say we're going to start at 10 o'clock. We want to know when steady state is so we can schedule the levels. So it's calculating that on dose 4 at this time it'll be at steady state, and that's when you can draw your levels. You can also, if you want to do a certain number of doses, of course this is the default to calculate steady state. Just helps you know when to schedule your serum levels. Dose by weight. For some reason this screen capture program isn't bringing up the tooltips, but if you hold your mouse pointer over the dose, will also give you milligrams per kilogram, but it's not working. No, it's not working in this screen capture program. I don't know why. Okay, let's go back. Let's talk about the monitoring form. This is a good time to talk about that. What's new in this version is the monitoring form is now by default a Word template. The program comes with a template, and you can modify that one, use it as is, or use your own. Let's look in the help file. Let's pull that up. Press F1, brings up your help topic. We're talking about the monitoring form. So the Word template is now the default method used for the monitoring form. If APK does not detect Word, then an alternate method is used. Here in this topic, it talks about how this works. What it is it's looking for this file here. It's called blank_pkmonitor.doc. that is the form that APK will use as the basis of the monitoring form. It then searches through that document and replaces these fields here with specific information. So if you have a field C underline PT name, it's going to replace that with patient name. So when you set up your monitoring form, and these are all set up in the form that comes with the program, but if you want to use your own monitoring form, and you have one already, just go ahead and plug these fields in here when they will be automatically replaced by this information here. None of these are required, but if you want to print an individualized monitoring form for this patient, this is a simple way to do it. Okay, let's look at the retrospective tab and see what's different here. One thing new here is the single point Bayesian is going to allow you now to enter levels that are outside of the dosing interval. So say they drew the trough level late. I know, gosh, that never happens. Imagine that. So anyway, the trough was drawn say 2 hours late. So instead of being drawn right before the infusion, normally you would have put 23 here. It was drawn 25 hours after the infusion ended. It's going to allow you to enter that, and it's going to analyze that information in your Bayesian method. And it's going to tell you to make some changes. So that will help a lot, I think, because the I shouldn't say majority, but it happens more than you want it to happen. They draw the trough level too late. Okay, let's see, any tools here we need to talk about? All that's new. Nothing new here. PK parameters. If you know the MIC, you can calculate those, and you can also save them for this patient so that when you do your consult form, when you preview that, you're going to see right here is your it's going to show your 24-hour area under the curve over MIC ratio is 125. Okay, dead air. Reports. What's new in reports is you can now export your information to Excel. That's where you would enter. Pick a file name, yada yada. You can also print an access log. Again, this is a HIPAA High-Tech Act thing. Let's close out that patient and look at population analysis. What's new here, and there's not enough information in here. I'm just going to go ahead and just show you that it's going to say insufficient number of records. But if you want to do population analysis, one thing new is prints a nice regression line and graph for you. Of course I can't do it now, but I think there's an example in the help file. Let's press F1, pull up the help file. Let's scroll down here and see right there, there's a regression graph, which is saved and you can print on your regression analysis report. So it shows your regression line and all the data points. Should help you with that functionality of the program. It's one of the most powerful tools that APK has. You should take advantage of it. And of course, that's based on the consult data when you're analyzing serum levels. And the trigger the program uses to save this data is the printing of the consult. You don't have to physically print it. You can just preview it, as we've been doing all along here in this example. But you know, that's a virtual gold mine of information about your patient population. You know, with this tool you can derive a model that's better fitted for your patient population. But the trigger, it's just important to always print your consults. Even when the levels come back normal, print your consults. So those normal data go into the pool, so that when you do your analysis, you're not just going to have the outliers, you're going to have everybody in there, and you're going to get a better sample. Okay, off my soapbox. That's just an incredibly powerful tool that you should take advantage of. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying. Okay, I think that's the highlights of the changes of this program. Huge changes, complete rewrite, updated tool set. Was built with an updated tool set. You got some nicer looking icons. It just looks prettier. I think that's the highlights. Okay. I hope you enjoy. Thanks. Bye.